Jim Edwards here, sitting alongside Chamaktar Sandu of MMAJunkie.com and Oscar Willis of the Mac Life. It's 24 hours ahead of Bellator 200. It goes down at the SSE Arena in Wembley, London, tomorrow evening. Guys, what a card we have in store for us tomorrow evening. No better place to start than, I guess, the main event. Rafael Cavalier defending his Bellator middleweight title against Gegard Mousasi. I'm going to go over to Sandu first. Break this kind of fight down for us here. What do we have here at the top of the bill to get excited for?
We have someone, Gegard Mousasi, who I think for the longest time you would feel as though should have a belt around his waist. He is easily a top 5 middleweight in any promotion around the world. And the fact that he's been brought in to Bellator, much like Ryan Bader, much like Rory McDonald, they've got that UFC pedigree, they've got name value. Bellator, ideally as a promotion, would like to see these guys have a belt around their waist or over their shoulder so they can promote them and champion them as Bellator champions. But Carvalho can't be overlooked. And the beers are arriving here.
Beers are arriving. We should have added, we're here in Nando's, cheeky Nando's, ahead of Bellator 200.
Exactly, the only way to do it.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Thank you.
And look, in Carvalho, if he wins, he'll be the most winningest Bellator middleweight champion of all time in company history. And I think that's something that's being a little bit overlooked. And just seeing them kind of square off over the last couple of days, Carvalho towers over Mousasi.
He's very big. He's a very big boy.
He's a big guy. But I do feel as though the experience and the fact that I still feel like Mousasi is very much in his prime, he'll have a lot more in his locker to get the job done. I do see him winning, and I do think it's a very elite level middleweight title fight for what Bellator can put on right now.
Oscar, your thoughts on it?
Well, absolutely, and I think there's one thing that's very interesting about Mousasi, and pretty much only Mousasi. He's been pretty open this week about saying that for the first time there's a title on the line here, and that's something it's a pressure he's not had to deal with. They're very close to the Netherlands, and as you heard at the weigh-in today, there's a lot of people here supporting him, so he told me about that pressure at the media day.
Loads of support for him.
It was quite incredible, easily the biggest pop of the entire affair, and that's with Aaron Chalmers in his native country.
And Michael Venom Page.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, exactly. But then Mousasi, being Mousasi, he always said so, it means a lot to him, but also in the general scheme of things, it doesn't mean that much at all. So I'm very interested to see how that pressure really affects him come fight night. I think he's done this on the bigger stage than Carvalho, so perhaps he'll be more comfortable in there. But as you mentioned, Sandy, the size difference is really quite something. When they squared off today, I mean, it's nearly like almost a foot of difference between the two. The height-wise, it's quite startling. Yeah. And on top of that, Mousasi's debut in Bellator against Shlemenko was not the most impressive. He's got the eye injury, which he's recovering from. I asked him again if that plays on his mind. He says, no, it's going to be fine. But once those punches started swinging, especially from a bigger man, I'm just very interested to see how Mousasi approaches the fight, if he uses that grappling to try and sort of get this fight away from the big blows on the feet.
Sure, it's a very hard fight to pick. Mousasi hasn't been incredibly active in the last year, but Sandra, I'm going to go to you. What's your official prediction, main event?
I'm picking Gegard Mousasi to become the new Bellator middleweight champion, and I feel as though he'll probably do it by a 3rd or 4th round knockout or TKO.
He's going to get it done late on. Yeah. Oscar?
I also think Mousasi, but I think he'll go by decision, and I think he'll survive trouble in the first 1 or 2 rounds.
Good stuff, lads. Co-main event tomorrow evening. It's been bumped up to this. It's Michael Venom Page taking on Dave Rickles. Michael Venom Page returning to the cage for over a year and a half since we've seen him in the Bellator cage. Oscar, I'll go to you here first of all. What are you expecting from this tomorrow night? People are saying that Dave Rickles is normally a lightweight, and this is another fight that Michael should win quite easily and quite handily. Loads of support for Michael. He's fighting in his hometown. There's a lot of things, I guess, going in his favour, but make a case for Dave Rickles tomorrow.
Well, I'm afraid to say I can't really do that, because this is, as usual when Bellator comes to London, the MVP event.
Sure.
With that, we can expect some crazy movement, some insane strikes, but we can also get a little bit of disappointment. Maybe he should be fighting a tougher guy, and that's unfortunately what Bellator, I think, are choosing to do with MVP here at the moment. They're giving him less than stellar opposition so he can put on the Venom show. So I think tomorrow night, that's what we're going to see. I think it is going to be a showcase for Michael Venom Page. It's going to get him back into action, which I think is very important. And I think if he can build off this, listen, it's all about dating. That's what we're all trying to get to here. And I think, should he win spectacularly, the right name said at the right time on the microphone, that's where we'll end up. But tomorrow night, I think it's MVP's night, as usual.
Sure. Speaking to Michael at the media day, he said that if thank you very much. That if Daly does turn up and try and steal his spotlight, things are going to go from 0 to 1 million very quickly, and it's going to be a very bad night for Paul Daly. There's that kind of element of excitement, but Shamakta, going back to the fight itself, like, what are you expecting from this?
It's interesting because we haven't seen Page in the cage for, like you said, 18 months, and a lot has changed in that period. He's got new management. He's now Paradigm Sports Management. For those that don't know, led by Audi Attar, managed some of the biggest names in the sport, including Michael Bisping, Tony Ferguson, and of course Conor McGregor. In that time, he has also been developing as a striker. He had a professional boxing bout around 6 months ago, which was very successful for him. And something that's a little bit underreported, but we did have a story up on MMA Junkie, is his motivation coming into this fight. He unfortunately had a cousin of his, Helena Ramsey, that was unfortunately killed in the Parkland shootings in Florida a few months ago, back in February. And he wore a T-shirt in tribute to her during the open workouts. And he kind of talked about things that have been happening and going on behind the scenes that isn't really kind of seen by the MMA community at large. So you take that all into consideration. You take in the attributes of what he brings to the table versus Dave Rickles, and again we talk about a height advantage, a reach advantage. He's younger, he may have less fights than Dave Rickles. Dave Rickles is like a company man, Bellator.
He's been around the block.
He's been around for a while, the caveman has. But I do feel as though Michael relishes the moments where he can fight in front of the London crowd. And I just can't see anything but a Michael Page victory. And it'll probably be a finish. I don't think it'll go to the decision like it did against Fernando Gonzalez. And I think it'll be a showcase fight eventually, ultimately for him. And yeah, like you said, Oscar, we all want to see the Paul Daly fight.
Sure.
However we get there, whether Paul interferes, comes cage side, or gets into the cage, I don't care how we get there, I just want to get there because it's without a doubt the biggest fight any promotion can put on in the UK right now.
Sure.
It's got the most heat, it's a true and passionate rivalry, it's got so much behind it, it can sell out the SSC in a heartbeat, I know it.
And bigger, much bigger.
Maybe the O2, who knows.
The right promotion.
With the right promotion behind it and some other big fights behind it. And I'm sure Bellator ideally want that. And I think the fans here in the UK deserve a fight of that magnitude. And so fingers crossed we get there. But in terms of the fight, I can see a Michael Venom Page victory by, again, knockout TKO, maybe in the first or second round.
Any ideas, just very quickly, one word answer. What's the theme of his celebration going to be? I'm going Fortnite.
Right, I was thinking Fortnite, but as you've picked that, I'll go for Black Panther.
Okay.
Or maybe perhaps Venom, the character from the Spider-Man and comic books. The movie's coming out soon, so maybe something along the lines of Venom as well.
I'm actually going to go a bit different. I think we're going to see him get the T-shirt to reference his cousin. I think it's actually going to be an understated celebration. Sure. I think he's going to use the time to do that.
I like that.
Avengers is also in the mix as well.
That's right. He does have his finger on the pulse when it comes to pop culture and the mainstream.
He said yesterday that there's too many to choose from and he was having a lot of difficulty. But he's got to win first.
Of course.
Massively important thing. Let's move on now. A highly controversial figure in UK MMA right now is Aaron Chalmers, 3-0, 2 knockouts, 1 submission. He comes into this fight tomorrow, Ash Griffiths, a much stronger opponent in terms of experience. His record's 4-6. It's losing, but let's face it, he's been in the cage 10 times. He's had numerous K1 fights. He's a very experienced guy. He's not been on the best run. He's lost 3 in a row. But what are you expecting from Aaron tomorrow? Is this going to be another showcase for Aaron, or do you think he's going to have a much more difficult time? I'll go to you, Oscar.
Well, I think it's Aaron's, still a work in progress. He's got heavy hands, but people want to, criticize the guy because he's using fame from another platform to build in this. Personally, as I've said all week to you, Sandy, I think he's so self-aware of that. You can't really hate on the guy. He's very aware of why he's not widely liked. As for the fight itself, I've been impressed with Chalmers' sort of fire this week. You know, a couple of these guys have been around the block. You know, some of them are a little bit lethargic at the open workouts. Maybe he is enjoying being a fighter, and you can see the media day stare downs. He was right in his face. Today, he was right in his face,
nose to nose, both times.
Both times, and he was there. And the fact that Griffiths missed weight, even if it was by a pound, and there was some sort of confusion with the commission timing, that always says something to me, even if it's just a question of attitude. And if we're looking at attitudes, Chalmers has the right attitude. I'm not so sure about Griffiths. So I think we're going to see a very aggressive Aaron Chalmers making the most of this stage. I think he's going to come out and I think he's going to get the finish.
Sandu, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I just want to say I've been very, very impressed with Aaron Chalmers throughout fight week. It's the first fight I've covered of his, having had a chance to talk to him, to see how he carries himself. He is so calm in the situation, and perhaps that comes up, with the fact that he's used to the fame, the celebrity, the spotlight.
That counts for a lot.
It does, because he doesn't have any butterflies. It doesn't seem as though he's coming in with any nerves or anything like that whatsoever. Physically, he looks in great shape. It's a catchweight bout at 163. The future appears to be at lightweight, so he's going to gradually bringing himself down there. But the fact that he's already on a massive show for Bellator here in London, it's a big numbered card for them, 200, having just made his professional debut just a little over a year ago, is absolutely remarkable to me. And you cannot understate what he could potentially mean for the promotion, specifically here in the UK.
Sure.
Outside of the broadcast on 5 Spike tomorrow night, it's also going to have a simulcast on MTV.
It's crazy.
And that would not have happened
if it wasn't for
Aaron Chalmers. He brings different media, a different audience to the table. An MTV audience, youngsters, perhaps folks that haven't watched MMA before, but are following his career, and that can never be a bad thing. So when you take into consideration someone like a Paul Daly, a veteran, a Michael Venom Page, who's really in the prime of his career right now, and someone like Aaron Chalmers, and all of a sudden, Bellator have a nice stable of UK fighters that are all bringing something different to the table, which is why I feel as though they should perhaps be bringing multiple shows to the UK throughout the year, because they have the talent to bring in the fans, to sell tickets, and to put eyeballs on the promotion.
And they could well do. Let's say MVP does win tomorrow evening. Scott Coker has said multiple times, this is a fight I want to put on, and I want to put it on in the UK. You're quite correct. We're building up a very nice stable of UK fighters, and some of them, unfortunately, Ryan Scope, who won't be fighting tomorrow. We know he's one of the greatest prospects in UK MMA in the lightweight division. You've got Mike Shipman tomorrow fighting middleweight. There's just a number of them very slowly building up. It's an exciting time. Guys, we could talk about these fights all night, but I'm going to go to you, Oscar, first, and I want to hear something a bit out of the ordinary, like what else is exciting you about tomorrow evening?
Well, when 50 Cent... No, I'm joking.
Come on. I want to meet him.
I'm sure... Well, who doesn't? But I'm genuinely a little bit curious to see what he's going to do when he arrives, if he arrives, and, let's see what happens. I'm also interested... Charlie Ward's fighting a gentleman who goes by the name of Mantime. The reason
Mantime, Martin Hudson.
Mantime Martin Hudson, who we're still trying to ponder that name. But the reason why I'm interested is essentially because of the dynamic at the weigh-ins. You had Mantime beating his chest, bellowing into the air. You had Charlie Ward
looked taken aback.
Looking a little bit sort of like bemused, a bit like... And I think the reason I like that dynamic is essentially because you've got this big, brash American versus the no-nonsense Irish guy.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, looking at the pair of them, you're just going to get a good old-fashioned scrap in the cage. And so I think that'll be entertaining.
And of course, the added X factor is Conor McGregor going to show. I'll ask you to add on that, but whenever Charlie Ward's fighting, Conor McGregor's usually around, so madness could unfold. Chimakta, just I guess, what's your watch out for tomorrow? Anything that you picked up on this week that potentially will make tomorrow night well worth tuning into?
I think when you've got names like Phil Davis and Linton Vassell, and you've got like a needle mover and Anastasia Yankova, you've got the Aaron Chalmers factor coming in, making his debut for the promotion, and of course, you'll find no bigger fan than MVP than myself. But when you put that all aside, what I love about this sport is elite MMA, and Rafael Carvalho versus Gegard Mousasi is an
good as
elite
it gets.
middleweight fight. We don't get title fights that often here in the UK, and I always thought as though Bellator should have been promoting this fight as the main event even before Mirko Krokop and Roy Nelson were added to the card. So in a roundabout way, I'm kind of glad that Carvalho and Mousasi have got that spotlight. They are the headliners now, albeit through an unfortunate circumstance. But that is the fight that I'm most looking forward to. It is elite MMA, and that's all I care about in the sport.
Yeah, for sure. Tomorrow evening promises to be a massive night on what is going to be an incredible weekend of mixed martial arts here in the UK. It's Bellator 200. I've been Jim Edwards, he's been Chimakta Sandhu, he's been Oscar Willis. Catch all of our coverage tomorrow night at the SSE Arena in Wembley, London.